The dust storms seemed to remember her. Lila Lynn pulled her worn canvas hat lower, shielding her eyes from the ochre haze that perpetually clung to the dying village of Oakhaven. Each gust of wind carried not only grit but also the sigh of drying leaves, the creak of empty swings, and the ghosts of conversations long silenced. Oakhaven had once been aptly named. Green had been its dominant hue, a fertile valley fed by the meandering silken river, its fields bursting with crops that nourished generations. Lila's earliest memories were of running through waist-high wheat, the air thick with the buzzing of bees and the laughter of children. But that was a decade ago, a lifetime away. Now, the river was a parched ribbon of cracked clay, the fields a desolate tapestry of brittle stubble, and the laughter had fled with the youth who streamed towards the distant, gleaming cities. Only the elders, stubborn as the last few weeds clinging to a rock, remained, their faces etched with a weariness that went deeper than age. Lila, barely 21, was an anomaly. While her peers chased futures in bustling metropolises, she had returned, armed with a botany degree and a fierce, almost irrational, determination. She knew the villagers whispered about her. The crazy girl who talks to dead plants, the one who thinks she knows better than Mother Earth herself. But Lila didn't care. Oakhaven was in her blood, its soil a part of her soul, and she felt its suffering as keenly as her own. For the past year, she had tried everything her textbooks taught her. She'd tested soil samples with meticulous precision, analyzing nutrient deficiencies, salinity, and pH levels. She'd experimented with drought-resistant varieties, imported specialized fertilizers, even attempted ancient terracing techniques she'd read about in forgotten agricultural tomes. Each attempt, each glimmer of hope, had been mercilessly crushed by the relentless sun and the unyielding, barren earth. The latest batch of corn seedlings, genetically modified for resilience, had withered before they reached ankle height, their skeletal husks a stark reminder of her failures. "It's no use, Lila," her mother, Lien, would sigh, her voice raspy from the perpetual dust. "The land has decided it's done with us. We should go to the city, like your cousins. There's nothing left here." Lila would shake her head, her jaw set. "There has to be, Mama. This land fed our ancestors for centuries. It can't just give up." She spent her days in the small, derelict shed she converted into a makeshift lab, poring over microscope slides and faded maps. Her nights were spent under the vast, star-dusted sky, listening to the mournful wind and the distant, unsettling silence where crickets once chirped. Despair was a dry, choking dust in her own throat, but she refused to let it settle. Not yet. One sweltering afternoon, she found herself in the village's oldest structure, the crumbling ancestral hall. It was a place usually avoided, its walls lined with dusty portraits of forgotten faces, its air thick with unspoken memories. Lila was searching for any scrap of information, any old logbook, even a folktale that might offer a clue. Most of the hall's contents had been lost, or taken by those who had left, but in a forgotten corner, behind a stack of broken roof tiles, she found a series of intricately carved wooden panels. They depicted scenes of Oakhaven's past, lush fields, bountiful harvests, and at the center, a stylized drawing of a unique plant, its leaves broad and vibrant, its fruit glowing with an almost ethereal light. As she traced the ancient carvings, an old voice startled her. "The sun-petal vine," Grandpa Way said, his voice a dry rustle, like autumn leaves. He was the oldest man in Oakhaven, his memory a fragmented mosaic of the village's history. He sat hunched on a low stool, his eyes cloudy but surprisingly sharp as they fixed on the carving. "Sun-petal vine," Lila repeated, her heart quickening. "What is it?" Grandpa Way chuckled, a sound like gravel shifting. "A legend, girl. A story for children. They say it grew here, long, long ago. Its roots went so deep, they found water where there was none. Its petals turned sunlight into life, even in the driest years. Our ancestors thrived because of it." He paused, a faraway look in his eyes. "But it was lost. Vanished. Some say it simply withered away when the people forgot to honor the land. Others say it was hidden, protected for a time of great need." "Hidden?" Lila pressed, her scientific curiosity overriding her skepticism. A plant that could survive drought and infertile soil? It sounded like a fantasy, yet the old carvings were so precise, so detailed. Grandpa Way tapped a gnarled finger on a specific section of the panel. It showed a small, intricate symbol, a swirling pattern within a stylized seed. This was the mark. The seed of the sun petal, said to be guarded by the river spirit, or some such nonsense. He scoffed gently. Just a story, Lila. Don't waste your bright mind on ghosts. But Lila couldn't dismiss it. She remembered her own grandmother's faint whispers about a seed of light that kept Oakhaven strong through an ancient famine. Combining Grandpa Way's fragmented memories with a dusty genealogy scroll she'd found earlier, she began to piece together a map. The river spirit, she deduced, wasn't a mythical being, but likely a hidden spring or a specific bend in the ancient riverbed, a place once considered sacred. She spent weeks poring over geological surveys and old land deeds, cross-referencing them with the faint, stylized carvings on the panel. The symbol, the swirling seed, started appearing in other places. On old pottery shards she dug up near the desiccated river, embroidered on a fragment of cloth in her grandmother's forgotten trunk, even faintly etched on the base of the ancestral hall's main altar. Her search led her, finally, to a place upstream, a section of the riverbed that was now completely dry, a deep ravine of sun-baked mud. It was here, nearly swallowed by creeping desertification, that a massive ancient oak tree stood, its gnarled roots clawing at the desiccated earth as if trying to hold on to life itself. The tree had been a landmark in old tales, a place where offerings were made to the river spirit. Beneath the oldest, thickest root, she found it. A small, almost perfectly spherical stone, worn smooth by centuries of erosion. It had a faint, almost invisible swirl carved into its surface, the seed symbol. With trembling hands, she pried it open. Inside, nestled in a dry, crumbling lining, were 3 tiny, dark seeds. They were no larger than poppy seeds, shriveled and ancient, seemingly lifeless. But in Lila's heart, a spark ignited. She raced back to her shed, her mind buzzing. These ancestral seeds were a gamble, a last desperate act. Even if they were the legendary sun petal vine, what were the chances they were still viable after centuries? Her lab tests showed no signs of life, no metabolic activity. They seemed utterly inert. "You're going to plant those?" her father, Jen, asked, holding one of the minuscule seeds between his thumb and forefinger with a look of utter disbelief. "They look like dried pebbles." He had come to watch, a skeptical glint in his eye, but also a flicker of the old hope he rarely showed. "They're more than pebbles, Baba," Lila said, her voice firm. "They're hope." She prepared a small patch of soil behind her shed, not the barren, cracked earth, but a specially cultivated mix she'd spent months perfecting. She added compost made from kitchen scraps, pulverized charcoal to enrich the soil, and a unique microbial solution she'd synthesized to promote nutrient absorption. She had also devised a drip irrigation system using recycled rainwater, a precious commodity. It was a tiny oasis in a desert of failure. Under the harsh midday sun, Lila carefully planted the 3 seeds. She watered them with a prayer in her heart, a silent plea to the forgotten ancestors and the stubborn spirit of Oakhaven. Grandpa Way was there, his eyes brighter than usual. A few children, drawn by curiosity, watched from a distance. Her parents stood by, a mixture of doubt and desperate hope warring on their faces. Days bled into weeks. Nothing happened. The tiny patch remained stubbornly brown, the seeds seemingly swallowed by the earth. Lila felt the familiar grip of despair trying to tighten around her, but she fought it. She checked the soil daily, adjusted the water, measured the light exposure. She spoke to the earth, whispering encouragement, reminding it of Oakhaven's past glory. Then, on the 27th day, just as a particularly violent dust storm threatened to engulf the village, Lila saw it. A minuscule green shoot, no bigger than a sewing needle, pushing through the soil. Then another. And another. 3 fragile emerald threads against the ochre backdrop. She shielded them with her own body as the dust whirled, her heart pounding. The next morning, the shoots had grown visibly, their leaves a vibrant, almost luminescent green, unlike any plant she had ever seen. And they weren't just growing, they were thriving. Word spread like wildfire. Villagers, who had long abandoned their fields, hobbled over to witness the miracle. They saw the tiny sprouts grow into sturdy saplings, then into robust vines, their leaves radiating a soft golden glow, just like the ancient carvings. The leaves were uniquely broad, almost heart-shaped, and remarkably smooth. And their roots. Lila traced them, finding they plunged deep into the earth, drawing moisture from an astonishing depth. Then came the first blossoms, delicate, cup-shaped flowers, a rich, deep purple, unfurling their petals towards the sun. And as they opened, a sweet, earthy fragrance drifted through the village, a scent so pure and forgotten, it felt like a memory waking up. Bees, once a rarity, began to appear, drawn by the intoxicating aroma. The sun-petal vine was more than just a plant, it was an ecosystem. Its flowers attracted insects, which in turn attracted birds. Its broad leaves created a cooling microclimate, and the very soil around it seemed to grow richer, darker. Lila realized the ancient legends weren't exaggerating. The vine was actively healing the land around it. It wasn't long before the vines began to bear fruit. They were unlike anything Lila had ever seen, softball-sized orbs, shimmering with the same golden light as the leaves, ripening from green to a deep, warm orange. The first harvest was a moment of profound revelation. The village gathered around the shed, their faces a mixture of awe and trepidation. With a ceremonial knife, Lila cut open a fruit. Inside, the flesh was a brilliant emerald green, juicy and fragrant. She offered a slice to Grandpa Wei. He took a bite, his eyes widening. "Sweet," he whispered, a tear tracing a path through the dust on his cheek. "And alive." The taste was incredible, sweet, tangy, and subtly refreshing, with an undercurrent of something ancient and vital. It was pure nourishment, and there was so much of it. The 3 vines had yielded enough fruit to feed a dozen families. And within each fruit, dozens of new, tiny seeds, ready to be planted. The success of the sun-petal vine ignited a spark in Oakhaven that Lila hadn't dared to dream of. The villagers, once resigned to their fate, found new purpose. Lila, with the help of Grandpa Wei and a surprisingly eager group of younger villagers who had decided to stay, established a community seed bank. She taught them how to care for the vines, how to prepare the soil, how to conserve water. The golden glow of the sun-petal leaves began to spread across Oakhaven. New fields were tilled, not with the old despair, but with a burgeoning hope. The vines grew with astounding vigor, transforming the barren landscape into a verdant tapestry. The riverbed, still dry for now, no longer felt like a grave, but a path to be reclaimed. The vines, with their incredible root systems, were slowly, patiently, helping the land retain moisture, encouraging the water table to rise. Within a year, Oakhaven was unrecognizable. The dust storms still occasionally rolled in, but they were met by a wall of vibrant green. Children, who had only known playgrounds of cracked earth, now chased each other through fields of sun-petal vines, their laughter echoing the forgotten music of the past. Homes were being repaired, shops reopened, and the local market, once a ghost town, bustled with activity as the unique, nutrient-rich sun-petal fruit found its way to distant towns, bringing in much-needed income. Lila Lynn, the crazy girl, was now simply Lila, the heart of Oakhaven. She was no longer just a botanist. She was a guardian, a teacher, a symbol of what was possible when science and ancestral wisdom merged. She had discovered that the ancestral seed wasn't just a plant, it was a testament to the resilience of life, a physical manifestation of Oakhaven's forgotten spirit. It reminded them that even in the deepest despair, buried beneath layers of dust and time, hope could always find a way to sprout, grow, and bloom, bringing life back to a dying world. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Lila stood amidst a field of glowing sun-petal vines. The air was cool now, scented with the unique sweetness of the fruit. Grandpa Wei walked up beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. "You didn't just bring back the crops, Lila," he said, his voice stronger than she'd ever heard it. "You brought back Oakhaven itself. You reminded us who we are." Lila smiled, looking out at the shimmering, vibrant landscape, at the flicker of lights through the leaves, at the sounds of life returning. Her journey had just begun. Oakhaven was not just saved, it was reborn, a beacon of green hope in a world that desperately needed it, all because one young botanist dared to believe in a tiny ancient seed. That will be all for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. Goodbye.